For our hip hinge airplane exercise, which is a single leg stance hip crease maneuver, we're going to start from the bottom up with our checklist. We're always going to start with our tripod, even pressure heel, big toe, little toe on the foot. So we have our tripod, we have our knee in line with the toes. So we're going to make sure that the leg is all facing the same direction, so we have correct alignment. As we line up into it, we want just like a little crease into the hip, and I like this leg reaching backwards. So when we get the crease going into the hip, we have this thigh out of the way so we can really get into that adduction to load the outside hip as we go back and forth across. So after we have our tripod, our knees in line with the foot and the hip start to talk to each other a little bit. This leg reaches back. If we're not good with our balance, we can either use this hand down. I usually like to do 5 fingertips, so we can take away 1 fingertip at a time as we get better at it. Or we could also put this little toe down back here. That both helps bring the pivot into it to give us our axis, and also gives like a little bit of, like just a tiny bit of like a little bit of an outrigger for stability. So the way we're going to go into this maneuver is we're going to have rib cage and pelvis are going to stay together. So as we drop in together, keeping the spine long and keeping our axis, we're going to go a big stretch to the outside hip. Foot's going to stay rooted. And we're going to think of pushing from the ground up to feel that glute kind of pick us back up and control us back down. So we're going to really feel this hinge across the hip. Outside leg's going to really pull us up. We're working on that frontal plane kind of up and down and control the pelvis. That would be part of our single leg stance. So over time, we can make sure we can pick our back leg up, get to full balance, and as we go back and forth, we're going to make sure that we have a good hip crease, and we're not going to lose that tripod on the foot either, because that whole foot, the foot tripod, maintaining that almost like slight outward spiral gets that little bit of turn into the hip. And if we have any problems feeling more like posterior chain exercise, this is primarily a posterior chain leg exercise. If we have any trouble feeling that, we start to feel a little too much quad or start to get a little knee pain, we can always think of sitting a little more back into the hip, almost like a tiny bit more heel than ball of the foot, like kind of like a little bit of a crease. We can either put this toe down and sit back into it or do it freestanding. So when we sit and crease into the hip, we can put like a little more sit back to the wall behind us almost to get a little more push through the hip as we come out of the bottom of the motion, hinge back and forth. So airplane exercise, rooted foot, knees in line, forward into it, big stretch across, back out each way. There you go.